If I was to ask you to humble yourself, what would that make you think of doing? Does it sound like something you would even want to do? You know, many of you know that this weekend we have called a weekend of prayer and fasting as a church. And one of the key verses that we've focused on as part of this is 1 Chronicles 7 verse 14, which says, "If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land." You know, it's a famous promise, but the first thing that God asks us to do is that the key to it that leads into prayer is that we humble ourselves. So this question of what does it look like for us to do that becomes a really important one. And I think we get a great example of what it looks like in Psalm 90, which is a prayer of Moses. And what we see here is that Moses puts everything into perspective. You know, he starts by recognizing who it is that he is speaking to. The one who is our creator and our protector. The one who is from everlasting to everlasting. He is speaking to powerful, almighty God. You know, the starting point for humbling ourselves is reflecting on who God is so that we lift him up. And as we do that, we realize not just how big he is, but how small we are. That's why Moses then goes on to pray, in comparison to you, God, who is from everlasting to everlasting, who are we? Who am I? We're like dust. We're like the grass of the field. We're here today and gone tomorrow. How can we think we know best and sit in judgment? How can we try and take control of things for ourselves? We can't even begin to understand your ways and your timing, God, because 1,000 years for us is like just a day to you. When I realize how holy and perfect and mighty you are, God, that you know and you see everything, I mean, who am I? God, I can't help then but be aware of how much I fall short. And you see it all. You know every wrong thought, every selfish moment, and I'm deserving of your judgment. You know, when in our prayers we put things in perspective, we recognize how big God is and how small we are, we can't help but humble ourselves. We can't help but have things put in perspective as we realize just how much we need God. And you know, as Moses does that, it stirs his heart in prayer. He prays, teach us to number our days. Help us essentially to keep things in perspective, to know what is of real value and importance in this life that is so fleeting and brief, so that we would have hearts of wisdom. Help us to see things as you do. So great prayer, such an important prayer, because our perspective, what we see, determines what we do and the way that we think and how we then act. And then there's a couple of lines in what Moses goes on to pray that I love, and I think are great things for us to be praying as part of this weekend. He prays, have compassion on your servants. Satisfy us in the morning with your unfailing love, that we may sing for joy and be glad all our days. And then in verse 17, he goes on, may the favour of the Lord our God rest on us. Establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. And this is my prayer for you today. What I want to encourage you to be praying over this weekend for one another. You know, that you would know God's amazing love for you. That you would know his unfailing love for you. That you wouldn't just know about it, but that it would satisfy your heart, that it would minister to you on the inside to such an extent that it refreshes you and restores you, to such an extent that it moves you to sing for joy because of your God's unfailing love for you. And then in this time that is uncertain, you would know the favor of the Lord rests on you. You would find favor in all that you put your hand to. That as you put your hand to things, you wouldn't be trying to kind of strive and to make things work in your own strength and in your own kind of way, and then getting frustrated as the restrictions change and everything that you've poured energy into kind of gets thrown away. But that you would know the favor of the Lord on what you put your hand to. That God would establish the works of your hands. That your labor would bear fruit for him. So as it's a great prayer, isn't it? I love it. And I'm praying for you, and I encourage you to use Psalm 90. Use Psalm 90 over this weekend as to help you in your pattern as you pray for others within the church, as you pray for our town, to help you to learn what it looks like for you to humble yourself before God. To recognize as you stop, as you take time to recognize how big God is, how mighty he is, and in comparison how small you are and how much you need him. And let his greatness begin to shape your perspective and determine your prayers. Bless you guys. I pray that you're encouraged, that you know God's unfailing love for you, his compassion for you, that you know his favor rests on you today. Take care.